One of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with disrespect is believing they have to react immediately. Someone says something rude, interrupts them, makes a sarcastic comment, or questions their worth, and within seconds emotions take over. The heart starts racing, the mind searches for the perfect comeback, and suddenly the conversation becomes a battle. Unfortunately, this is exactly what many disrespectful people want. They thrive on emotional reactions because reactions give them power. The moment they can control your emotions, they begin controlling the interaction. That is why refusing to reward disrespect with emotion is one of the strongest skills you can develop. Remaining calm does not mean you are weak. In fact, it is one of the greatest signs of strength. Anyone can lash out when they are angry. Anyone can yell, argue, or throw insults back. It takes real confidence to stay composed when someone is trying to provoke you. Emotional control is not about pretending you do not have feelings. It is about deciding that your feelings will not be controlled by someone else's behavior. Think about people who constantly criticize others or make passive-aggressive remarks. Often, they are not looking for a healthy conversation. They are looking for a reaction. They want to see you become defensive. They want to know they can make you uncomfortable. Sometimes they want attention. Other times they simply enjoy creating conflict because it distracts them from their own insecurities. When you immediately respond with anger or frustration, you unintentionally give them exactly what they wanted. Imagine someone interrupts you in the middle of a meeting and one of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with disrespect is believing they have to react immediately. Someone says something rude, interrupts them, makes a sarcastic comment, or questions their worth, and within seconds emotions take over. The heart starts racing, the mind searches for the perfect comeback, and suddenly the conversation becomes a battle. Unfortunately, this is exactly what many disrespectful people want. They thrive on emotional reactions because reactions give them power. The moment they can control your emotions, they begin controlling the interaction. That is why refusing to reward disrespect with emotion is one of the strongest skills you can develop. Remaining calm does not mean you are weak. In fact, it is one of the greatest signs of strength. Anyone can lash out when they are angry. Anyone can yell, argue, or throw insults back. It takes real confidence to stay composed when someone is trying to provoke you. Emotional control is not about pretending you do not have feelings. It is about deciding that your feelings will not be controlled by someone else's behavior. Think about people who constantly criticize others or make passive-aggressive remarks. Often, they are not looking for a healthy conversation. They are looking for a reaction. They want to see you become defensive. They want to know they can make you uncomfortable. Sometimes they want attention. Other times they simply enjoy creating conflict because it distracts them from their own insecurities. When you immediately respond with anger or frustration, you unintentionally give them exactly what they wanted. Imagine someone interrupts you in the middle of a meeting and there's a common belief that the loudest person in the room is the strongest, but real confidence rarely announces itself. It doesn't need dramatic speeches, clever insults, or endless explanations. True confidence speaks through the way you carry yourself, the way you respond under pressure, and the way you refuse to let someone else's behavior dictate your emotions. When you understand this, you'll realize that your body language often sends a much stronger message than anything you could ever say. Think about the people you naturally respect. Chances are they aren't constantly trying to prove themselves. They don't interrupt everyone to make a point. They don't argue over every criticism, or rush to defend every decision they make. Instead, they carry themselves with quiet certainty. They speak when necessary, listen carefully, and remain composed even when others lose control. That kind of confidence is impossible to fake for long, because it comes from knowing your own worth rather than needing others to confirm it. One of the biggest mistakes people make when facing disrespect is believing they must immediately defend themselves. Someone makes a rude comment, and they instantly begin explaining why they are right. Someone questions their abilities, and suddenly they are listing every accomplishment they've ever achieved. The problem with this approach is that it places the other person in the position of judge, as if their approval determines your value. The more desperately you try to convince someone to respect you, the less confident you appear. Confident people understand something that insecure people often forget. Not every opinion deserves a response. Just because someone criticizes you doesn't mean they've earned your attention. Sometimes silence communicates more strength than an argument ever could. When you refuse to engage with unnecessary negativity, you demonstrate that your peace of mind is more valuable than winning a pointless debate. Your posture alone can completely change how people perceive you. Stand tall without appearing stiff. Keep your shoulders relaxed rather than tense. Hold your head naturally instead of constantly looking at the floor. These small physical changes don't just influence how others see you. They also affect how you feel about yourself. Research has consistently shown that body language and emotional state influence each other. When you physically carry yourself with confidence, your mind gradually begins to believe it. Eye contact is another powerful tool that many people underestimate. Avoiding someone's gaze often signals uncertainty, even when you have every reason to be confident. On the other hand, maintaining calm, respectful eye contact shows that you're comfortable with yourself and have nothing to hide. Notice the word calm. This isn't about staring someone down or trying to intimidate them. It's about showing that you aren't afraid of the conversation or the person standing in front of you. Your voice matters just as much as your posture. Many people become louder when they feel challenged because they mistake volume for authority. In reality, constantly raising your voice usually reveals frustration rather than confidence. People who are truly secure don't need to shout. They speak clearly, slowly, and deliberately. They allow pauses instead of rushing through every sentence. They trust that what they are saying has value without forcing others to listen through sheer volume. Another sign of genuine confidence is the ability to stay emotionally balanced. Imagine two people in an argument. One becomes angry, interrupts constantly, and throws personal insults. The other remains calm, speaks thoughtfully, and refuses to match the hostility. Even if you knew nothing about either person, you'd probably assume the calmer individual possesses greater confidence and emotional maturity. That's because emotional control signals inner strength. This doesn't mean you never express emotion. Confidence isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about choosing when and how to express your feelings instead of allowing them to control your behavior. You can be disappointed without becoming disrespectful. You can disagree without becoming aggressive. You can defend yourself without losing your composure. Many people spend years trying to appear confident by copying external behaviors. They memorize witty comebacks, practice dominant body language, or imitate charismatic public figures. While these techniques can help, they aren't substitutes for genuine self-belief. Real confidence grows from keeping promises to yourself, learning from mistakes, improving your skills, and recognizing that your value doesn't disappear because someone fails to appreciate it. One of the strongest displays of confidence is being comfortable with silence. Not every conversation requires you to fill every pause. Not every accusation demands an immediate defense. Sometimes taking a moment before responding demonstrates thoughtfulness rather than weakness. It shows you're responding intentionally instead of reacting emotionally. Confident people also know when to walk away. They understand that not every battle deserves their energy. If someone repeatedly disrespects you despite your efforts to communicate honestly, leaving the conversation isn't surrender. It's self-respect. Continuing to argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you rarely changes their mind. It simply drains your peace. Another important habit is resisting the urge to seek validation from everyone around you. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions, criticize your choices, or dislike you for reasons beyond your control. If your confidence depends on universal approval, you'll spend your life chasing something impossible. Instead, focus on acting according to your values. When you know you've behaved with integrity, outside opinions lose much of their power. Confidence also means admitting when you're wrong. Surprisingly, saying, "I made a mistake" often requires more strength than pretending to be perfect. Secure people don't see mistakes as threats to their identity. They see them as opportunities to learn. Insecure people often become defensive because they believe being wrong makes them less valuable. Confident people know that growth requires humility. Your facial expressions communicate more than you realize. Constantly looking anxious, apologetic, or uncertain invites others to question your confidence. A relaxed expression, genuine smile when appropriate, and composed demeanor create an atmosphere of quiet assurance. Again, this isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. It's about avoiding unnecessary displays of nervousness that don't reflect your true capabilities. It's equally important to respect others while maintaining your own confidence. Some people confuse confidence with arrogance. Arrogance tries to prove superiority by making others feel small. Confidence has no such need. Truly confident individuals celebrate other people's successes, listen respectfully, and remain open to different opinions because they don't view every interaction as a competition. Remember that confidence isn't built overnight. Every time you remain calm instead of reacting impulsively, you strengthen it. Every time you maintain healthy boundaries, you reinforce it. Every time you trust your judgment instead of constantly seeking approval, it grows a little stronger. These small moments accumulate until confidence becomes part of your identity rather than something you have to consciously perform. At the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel more than the exact words you spoke. A calm presence leaves a lasting impression because it reflects stability, maturity, and self-respect. Long after a clever comeback is forgotten, quiet confidence continues to command respect. When your actions consistently align with your values, your body language naturally reflects inner certainty. And that's when you discover the most powerful truth of all: the strongest statement you can make isn't always something you say. Often, it's simply the way you carry yourself. One of the most important skills you can develop in life is learning how to set clear boundaries. It sounds simple, but for many people, it's one of the hardest things to do. We often worry about disappointing others, creating conflict, or being seen as rude. As a result, we stay silent when someone crosses the line, hoping they'll eventually realize what they are doing. Unfortunately, that rarely happens. People can only respect boundaries they know exist, and if you never communicate yours, they'll continue treating you the same way. Many people believe boundaries are walls meant to keep others out, but that's not what they are at all. Healthy boundaries are simply guidelines that teach people how to treat you. They are not about controlling someone else's behavior. They are about deciding what you will and won't accept in your own life. When you understand this difference, setting boundaries becomes much less intimidating. You're not trying to change another person. You're simply making your standards clear. One of the biggest myths about boundaries is that they have to be loud or aggressive. Movies often show powerful people shouting, threatening, or delivering dramatic speeches to command respect. Real life is very different. The strongest boundaries are usually communicated calmly and confidently. A steady voice, respectful words, and consistent actions are often far more effective than anger. When you stay calm, you show that your boundary isn't based on emotion in the moment. It's based on self-respect. Imagine someone constantly interrupts you every time you speak. Many people either stay quiet and tolerate it, or eventually explode after months of frustration. Neither approach solves the problem. Instead, you can calmly say, "I'd like to finish what I was saying," and then continue speaking without raising your voice. It's a simple statement, but it clearly communicates that your voice deserves to be heard. You don't need a long explanation or an apology. You simply state your expectation and move forward. Consistency is what gives boundaries their strength. Anyone can set a boundary once, but if you immediately abandon it the next time someone pushes back, people quickly learn they don't have to take it seriously. Imagine telling someone you don't answer work calls after dinner, but then you answer every call anyway. Over time, your words lose meaning because your actions tell a different story. Boundaries only work when your behavior consistently supports them. One reason people struggle with boundaries is the fear of being disliked. They believe saying no will damage relationships or make others think they're selfish. The truth is that healthy relationships actually become stronger when boundaries exist. People know where they stand with you. There's less confusion, less resentment, and more mutual respect. Someone who genuinely values you may not always like your boundaries, but they will learn to respect them. On the other hand, someone who becomes angry every time you say no may have benefited from your lack of boundaries in the first place. Learning to say no is one of the clearest examples of setting healthy boundaries. Many people automatically agree to favors, extra responsibilities, or invitations because they don't want to disappoint anyone. Before long, they are exhausted, overwhelmed, and secretly resentful. Every yes you give to something you don't truly want is often a no to something you actually need, whether that's rest, family time, personal goals, or simply peace of mind. Saying no isn't an act of selfishness. It's an act of protecting your time and energy. You also don't owe everyone a detailed explanation for your decisions. Many people feel guilty unless they provide a long list of reasons for declining a request. They think if their excuse is good enough, the other person won't be upset. But excessive explaining often invites negotiation. Someone who hears 5 reasons why you're unavailable may spend the next 5 minutes trying to solve each one. A simple, respectful response is often enough. You can decline politely without feeling obligated to justify every choice you make. Boundaries become especially important with people who repeatedly test your limits. Some individuals intentionally push just a little further each time to see what you'll tolerate. They borrow money without returning it, constantly arrive late, ignore your personal space, or make disrespectful jokes at your expense. If these behaviors go unchallenged, they usually become more frequent. That's why addressing small acts of disrespect early often prevents much bigger problems later. Small boundaries today can save you from major conflicts tomorrow. It's also important to understand that setting boundaries doesn't guarantee everyone will respond positively. In fact, some people may become frustrated because they are no longer getting the unlimited access or control they once had. This reaction doesn't necessarily mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes it simply means the relationship is changing. People who benefited from your silence may resist your new confidence. That's normal. Their discomfort isn't proof that you've made a mistake. Healthy boundaries require you to become comfortable with temporary discomfort. Saying no may feel awkward at first. Correcting someone's disrespectful behavior may make your heart race. Walking away from an unhealthy conversation may leave you wondering if you did the right thing. These feelings are completely natural because you're practicing a new way of interacting. Like any skill, confidence grows with repetition. The more you honor your own boundaries, the easier it becomes. Another mistake people make is believing boundaries only apply to others. In reality, you also need boundaries with yourself. That means refusing to engage in endless arguments, refusing to obsess over every criticism, refusing to sacrifice your health for work, and refusing to tolerate negative self-talk. Self-respect begins with the standards you. At the end of the day, the most valuable relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. People will come and go. Some will support you, others will criticize you, and a few may even try to make you question your worth. Through all of that, one thing must remain constant: your self-respect. It is the foundation of your confidence, your decisions, and your happiness. Once you begin sacrificing your self-respect just to keep others comfortable, you slowly lose sight of who you really are. Many people spend years trying to earn respect from everyone around them. They become people pleasers, constantly saying yes when they want to say no, apologizing for things that aren't their fault, and tolerating behavior they know is unacceptable. They believe that if they are kind enough, patient enough, or helpful enough, everyone will eventually appreciate them. While kindness is a beautiful quality, it should never come at the expense of your dignity. There is a big difference between being compassionate and allowing yourself to be mistreated. One of the biggest traps people fall into is confusing peace with silence. They avoid difficult conversations because they don't want conflict. They let rude comments slide. They ignore repeated disrespect. They convince themselves that staying quiet makes them the bigger person. Sometimes silence is wise, but sometimes silence becomes permission. When someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries and you never speak up, they often assume their behavior is acceptable. Protecting your self-respect sometimes means having uncomfortable conversations, even if they temporarily disrupt the peace. Your self-respect is reflected in the standards you set for your life. It influences the friendships you maintain, the relationships you accept, the opportunities you pursue, and the way you speak to yourself. If you believe you deserve honesty, you'll naturally distance yourself from people who constantly lie. If you believe your time has value, you'll stop allowing others to waste it without consideration. If you believe your feelings matter, you'll stop making excuses for people who repeatedly ignore them. Everything begins with what you believe you deserve. One difficult lesson many people eventually learn is that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your life. Just because you've known someone for years doesn't mean they have the right to disrespect you. Loyalty is important, but loyalty should never require you to sacrifice your mental well-being. Some relationships become healthier after clear boundaries are established. Others reveal that they only survived because one person kept tolerating unhealthy behavior. While that realization can be painful, it also creates space for healthier connections. Self-respect also means refusing to chase people who have clearly shown they don't value you. Whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or even a professional connection, constantly trying to convince someone of your worth is emotionally exhausting. Your value doesn't increase because someone finally notices it, and it doesn't decrease because someone fails to recognize it. The right people won't require endless proof of why you deserve respect. They'll naturally appreciate what you bring into their lives. Many people stay in unhealthy situations because they fear being alone. They believe any relationship is better than no relationship at all. But loneliness is often easier to heal than the damage caused by constant disrespect. Being surrounded by people who make you feel unimportant can leave you feeling far more isolated than spending time by yourself. Learning to enjoy your own company builds confidence because it teaches you that your happiness isn't completely dependent on someone else's approval. Another important part of self-respect is learning to forgive yourself. Many people hold on to guilt for mistakes they made years ago. They replay embarrassing moments, poor decisions, and missed opportunities until they begin believing those experiences define them. But everyone makes mistakes. Growth only becomes possible when you're willing to learn from your past without allowing it to control your future. Respecting yourself means acknowledging your imperfections while still recognizing your worth. It's equally important to pay attention to the way you speak to yourself. Imagine having a friend who constantly criticized everything you did, reminded you of every failure, and never acknowledged your progress. You probably wouldn't stay close to that person for very long. Yet many people treat themselves exactly that way every single day. Your inner voice shapes your confidence more than any outside opinion ever could. When you replace constant self-criticism with honest but compassionate self-reflection, your confidence gradually becomes stronger. Protecting your self-respect also requires courage. There will be moments when standing up for yourself feels uncomfortable. You may disappoint people. Some may misunderstand your intentions. Others might accuse you of changing simply because you no longer tolerate behavior you once accepted. That's okay. Growth often changes relationships, and not everyone will celebrate the new version of you. The people who genuinely care about you will eventually adjust. Those who only valued your willingness to stay silent may drift away, and that's not necessarily a loss. One powerful habit that strengthens self-respect is keeping promises to yourself. If you constantly break commitments you make to yourself, whether it's exercising, learning a new skill, saving money, or maintaining healthy boundaries, you slowly lose trust in your own word. Every time you follow through on a promise, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can depend on yourself. That quiet confidence becomes one of the strongest forms of self-respect. Self-respect doesn't mean believing you're better than anyone else. It means recognizing that you're equal to everyone else. You don't need to look down on others to feel worthy. Truly confident people don't compare themselves constantly because they understand that everyone's journey is different. They celebrate other people's success without feeling threatened because their own value isn't based on being superior. It's also important to remember that respect is demonstrated through actions, not empty words. Someone can tell you they care while repeatedly ignoring your feelings. They can promise change while continuing the same harmful behavior. Self-respect means paying attention to patterns instead of excuses. It means believing what people's actions consistently reveal rather than what their words temporarily promise. As you grow, you'll notice something interesting. The more you respect yourself, the less you feel the need to prove yourself. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining every decision. You stop arguing with people determined to misunderstand you. Instead, you invest your energy in the people and opportunities that genuinely deserve it. Life becomes much more peaceful because you're no longer carrying the impossible burden of making everyone approve of you. There will always be people who disagree with your choices, question your boundaries, or criticize the way you live your life. That's simply part of being human. The goal isn't to silence every critic or win every argument. The goal is to make sure their opinions never become louder than your own sense of self-worth. When your confidence comes from within instead of from constant external approval, you become incredibly difficult to manipulate. Ultimately, protecting your self-respect is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It shapes the decisions you make, the relationships you build, and the life you create. Every time you choose honesty over pretending, boundaries over people-pleasing, courage over fear, and self-worth over approval, you become a stronger version of yourself. Respect from others is valuable, but it will always come second to the respect you have for yourself. Once you truly understand your own worth, you'll stop settling for anything that asks you to compromise it. And that's the moment your life begins to change from the inside out.